Hello, everyone. Welcome on to Branded, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and beyond the brand to give you the clarity and confidence to challenge the status quo and show the fuck up in your own life. I'm super excited to bring you Victoria Dume today. She is a new-ish connection for me, as in like it's been less than a year that we've known each other, but man, is this woman incredible. So I'm really, really excited to bring you guys Victoria and her story. And thank you so much for being here, Victoria.
I'm so grateful to be here, and I love the connection. I'm so grateful for many connections that were made in 2023 for me, and definitely you are by far one of the highlights.
Oh, thanks. Oh, it was so good. And we'll talk about some of that too. But first off, I just want to give you guys a little bit of background on Victoria. She is multi-talented. Like this woman, I got to see her in action at her own retreat that she puts on. She's a transformational life coach, an author, a speaker. She's really into helping women recalibrate their nervous systems and empowering them to sort of conquer the fear and the anxiety of things, guiding them towards energetic alignment and enabling them to step into a life that authentically embodies their aspirations and dreams. She has such a great point of view on authenticity, so I'm sure we'll talk about that soon. And her work is honestly, it's such a beacon of hope when it comes to anybody who's seeking that like level of fulfillment and authenticity. Like she's your woman. So I'm so pumped to have you here.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm super excited to be here and talk about all of those things that I'm super passionate about.
Love it. Okay, so first off, a little bit of backstory. Victoria and I met in September of 2023 at the Faith Over Fear conference, and it was totally by like random that we met, I guess. I don't know. Like we know a common person, Bryn Lang, who you guys will see a podcast episode with her soon. But we just go to dinner, right? And we just ended up sitting across from each other.
So the funny thing is I was just sitting down. I think it was like second to last day of the conference. And I saw Bryn pass by. I've met Bryn before. I've met her at the Ray Higdon event the year before. And we had connected. And so it's been almost a year since I had met Bryn and connected with her. And she was just walking by and I was like, where are you going? And she's like, I'm going to dinner. And I was like, well, can I crash that dinner? And she was like, yes, come on. So it was me crashing Bryn's dinner that allowed me to meet you.
I love it. But that's what was so fantastic about that event and the people that we were surrounding ourselves with was we were all there to meet new people, to discover collaborations, to have new conversations. Like someone asked me at that event why I was there. And I was like, I'm just here to see who I meet and what kind of conversations I can have with people. Like that was my sole purpose of going. I didn't have any ulterior motives of anything. It was just like, who can I meet? And just great combo with. So yeah, Victoria and I were sitting across from each other, having some cocktails and some dinner, and we started chatting. And then she mentioned that she does her own retreats, which I got to experience in November of 23. And it was phenomenal. Like I was so impressed and like, I came away from your retreat feeling incredibly like recharged and fulfilled.
That's literally the goal of Power Retreat is where women leave recharged. So thank you for saying that and for feeling that, because sometimes we go to events and we actually leave drained. So I'm grateful that was something that you were able to leave the retreat.
I could tell that you were very intentional about how you wanted people to experience the retreat that you put on. And it was a very different experience because I attended multitudes of events in 2023. And not to say that any of them were not what I needed, but you're right. I usually come away from them feeling very energetically drained because it is a lot of conversations. It's a lot of getting to know people. It's a lot of sitting and listening for hours on end, for someone speaking. But with your retreat, you gave us the opportunity to like be in our bodies and experience things, but also get in the head and start to think about things and talk about things. So you really had a fantastic like harmony of just the allowing the body to have these daily cycles of like
Yeah.
gratitude, appreciation, embodiment, like integration. So
Yes, integration. Oh my goodness. So can I say this right now? Because you're basically like revealing what I have coming up in 2024. So I know that everyone's listening to this. It's already 2024. And exactly what you just said is my goal of like how I want my coaching and my events to follow this series. So I want everyone to, yes, have awareness, have the information, like having those breakthrough, like aha moments where they're bringing consciously what's been in the unconscious, which is a lot what we do at the Power Retreat. But then I want them to be able to integrate that information, because I truly believe that transformation doesn't begin until we integrate, right? So it's information until transformation occurs, and that happens through integrations, which is why I teach the somatic aspects and wanted to integrate that at the retreat. But this year, 2024, is all about having these tools available to you so that whatever season in life you're in. So let's say like in January, we start with like the visions, the goals. Well, we're in the head about that, right? We can be very like, in the surface level about that. We're writing out down our goals. We're maybe even visioning our goals, and we're writing those 2.0 letters about like what we've accomplished, and starting to see that at a conscious level now. And maybe we may even go into some unraveling of the unconscious beliefs, the limiting beliefs and patterns that we are now aware of. Well, we can then take that information, and then we can go into the body and doing the alignment work somatically through somatic days. So I'm going to be introducing some events this year, right after the connection events that I do we have quarterly connection events. We're going to do somatic works so that you can align specific somatics to that season. So again, using the example of vision and goals, well, how can now we get the body to be in alignment with those visions and goals, so that we're creating the safety around fears maybe, or traumas or things like that. And then let's say you're in a season where relationships needs to be like healed, right? There's relationships, maybe you're single, you want to attract a partner, you're ready for that, or you're in a relationship and there's some turmoil, there's some distance, like some separation happening, some isolation happening, or you're lacking the self-love that you need. Maybe it's a relationship with yourself. Well, the somatics that works with that, it's going to be different than the somatics that works around energetic alignment with goals. So we want to get into somatics and grounding and techniques that will get into the body for healing relationship wounds or self-love wounds, and then so on. So, and then maybe it's a business, venture. Maybe it's a season where you're looking to invest. Well, getting in alignment. Well, somatics for that to match that. And so these are the tools that I'm really passionate about teaching to my clients, so that they know, oh, I'm going through this. Maybe it's physical health. Maybe it's their weight gain already. Like maybe it's like they're gaining weight, or they're having autoimmune things being flared. Well, there's a somatic for that, and there's awareness, yes, but then there's like, who am I being that's maybe creating this? But then like, how can I ground with that? And so these are tools that I'm really passionate about teaching, so that women can integrate the let's say the book they're reading, or the course that they're on, or the education that they're receiving around themselves. Well, then they can now go into the body. So
yeah.
that is something I'm really excited about for 2024, for this year, and bringing really, really aligned intentional tools to the women, so they know they have so much more clarity on how to start integrating and causing transformation.
See, and I think that's such a powerful point of view to have around like the idea of mindset work and transformation, because I have personally experienced it and witnessed it in so many people, that you get this, learning constipation, right? Where you're just constantly taking on more and more information. You're reading the books, you're taking the courses, you're having the conversations, but then you're almost in overload and you're doing nothing with it. So
Right.
what good is it if you're not going to implement the integration piece? And yeah, I got to experience how how well you do that in such a way that it doesn't seem like this huge to-do task. It's sort of like, okay, now we're going to pause for a minute and we're going to actually take some action, and not like scary action. It's just like, let's just talk about it first, or let's,
Yeah.
listen about it. Like, let's have a conversation with somebody else. So yeah, I really was, very thankful for how you ran the retreat, and it gave me a really fantastic glimpse into what you do in your programs. And we'll chat about that here in a little bit on the episode, because I want to talk about, like, who's the type of woman you're working with and all of that. But before we get there, can you give us a little bit of a background on, you're here now and you're saying all these things, but what did life look like before? I mean, even if it was, whether it was a decade ago or like 10 months ago, I mean, what were things that were happening in your life before you decided to get to, this level of your business?
Well, okay, so we could be here for probably a long time,
Give
but
us
to
the
kind
Cliff
of
Notes
quickly,
version.
yeah, to kind of quickly summarize that, I'm actually writing a book, and I'm hoping to finally have it done. It's one of my personal goals for 2024 is to have, if not done, like 80 to 90% done. Okay. So it is called Divorce Awakens. And the reason for that title is because it was my divorce back in 2017 that woke me up. It forced me to look at myself in ways I had never, ever needed to look at myself.
Yeah.
And it could be divorce, or it could be any other life incident that just kind of flips your life upside down. And that could be the awakening point for you, right? That's the wake up call for you. For me, it was divorce. And it put me down a very long healing journey. And I went, down the rabbit hole of healing. And that rabbit hole was all sorts of, in that rabbit hole, it was all sorts of things. It was modalities, it was concepts, it was theology, it was philosophy, it was religion, it was spirituality. It was so many things that just kind of, it was, I'm still in the rabbit hole. I feel like, I'm still learning and exploring. But it was a divorce. And before that divorce, I thought I was good, right? I thought I was living like what I should be living. And little did I realize that I was living a very conforming life. I was conforming to the social realities that I was not meant to ever conform to kind of quickly, Cliff Notes version. And my divorce rocked me in a way where I had to look at the things that I thought were real, the things that I thought were truths, the things that I thought, was the way that things should be. And it was no longer that way. And so I started investing really deeply into healing work, into all of the things that now I'm super passionate about. And it woke me up, like that saying, like you you were blind once, and then you start to see things that you never saw. And I use this analogy where, like, our whole, not analogy, I use this visual representation. I want to do it with you.
Yeah.
So if anyone's watching this too.
Yeah, if anyone's watching on YouTube or Facebook, you'll be able
So
to
I
see
would
this.
say that, like, we everything that we experience becomes how we see the world, from our childhood and early, young adulthood into adulthood. All of our experiences, our childhood, our churches, our families, our culture, our personal traumas, as well as our family's traumas that get just all brought in. And that basically becomes like the filter. So I always say, like, everyone has a lens that they see life through. And this lens is like everything you've ever known. It's everything you've ever experienced in all of your senses, and even like from another world that you kind of vaguely remember, which I believe could be like just, ancestry passed on to you, past life, whatever. Okay. And this is your filter. So everything in life becomes filtered through this life experience. And then you kind of meet other people and concepts and modalities and teachings that, like, it's another lens. It's like, in this lens, these people see completely different things and different possibilities, and there's multiple lenses. And so most people, they keep their lens on, and they're like, okay, well, I'll take your lens. But the thing is that you don't realize you're still filtering it through your own lens. So you're willing to kind of take on these concepts, and you're willing to kind of like, okay, yeah, I'll take on that idea, or I'm going to test that idea, but you still like keeping your own filter, like that, the preconceived narrative, or like, your past, right? And it only doesn't really let you kind of fully see what is possible and what is really real in this type of world, right? And I believe that there's a gazillion possibilities and different realities that we can accept for ourselves. So if you're like, oh, I kind of would love this reality, and you're willing to kind of take it on, well, the goal is to actually have to get rid of this, right? To like fully see, like, holy shit, like you're seeing things you've never seen before. And that is how I define my awakening journey, is that I started to see things that I had been told about, but I was looking at it through this lens. Does that make sense? Like,
Yes.
until I truly let go of this and I healed all of this story, it was like putting on a new, like walking into a whole another space with a whole new lens. It was when like things that never made sense to me made sense to me. I was like, I get it. And
Yeah.
that's the journey that I've been in. And let me tell you, letting go of this is the most hardest thing, because this is the comfort zone. This is what you know. This is the safety. This is everything you know, and the body knows. And letting go of this to go into this is the scariest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
But it is so worth it, because if you are willing to take on a possibility of the world that you really do want to live in, this will be worth it. This will be.
Such a great example of what that feels like, because I've actually had trouble articulating that exact same sensation. And I've described it before, where it's like as if there was just this veil of like, it's like whenever you see those movies where it's like there's this shimmer, it's like you can see things on the other side, but they're not really all that clear. You're not really sure what you're looking at. And there's just sort of this veil that's kind of blocking your clarity. And I just sort of lived that way for 30 plus years. I was like, whatever, this is what it is, because it just is like my identity. But then when I saw just a glimpse of the possibility that I could be something different, that I could feel different, that I could do different, that's all I needed to see, was just that like micro moment of possibility. And then I was like peeking through the veil going, oh, well, okay. Like, I guess I don't want to live over here anymore. Like, and so, yeah, you just slowly start to shed that identity, that lens a little bit. And
Yes.
it's a wild experience.
And that's exactly, I love that you use the word shed, and that's exactly it. It's like the shedding of the old, of the past. And getting, a lot of the work that I do is around energetic alignments. So I teach, that's why the somatics is so important, the visualizations, the techniques, the meditations, all of that, to get into the body so that your body's, shifting, right? And without energetic alignment, you won't be able to see those things. And that's the thing, like without teaching the body safety and energetic alignment also means letting go, right? Like literally detoxing the body, because if you think about it, like in terms of like parasites, right? Like they're holding space in the body, and parasites literally sucking life out of you. They're causing all these like dysfunctional things to happen in the body. Well, there are energetic parasites in our world. And if we're not detoxing from those energetic parasites, we're not able to see. We're not able to kind of tune in, right? Like if you believe in the chakras and energy centers, we're not able to clear the ability to discern. And so we're always going to be clouded, like you said. We're always going to be clouded. And in that cloudedness, we'll make really bad decisions because we don't really know the truth. We don't know what we should be doing. So intuition is like not there because we are having these energetic parasites. This is a metaphor, right? So these could be people, this could be lifestyle, this could be what you're watching, this could be what you're listening to, this is what you're reading, this is the people that you're hanging around with. And anyone who's in personal development, they've heard this before. But if you really look at it from a metaphysical level and an energy, right? The energetic realm, the physical laws of the universe and the spiritual laws of the universe, this will make sense to you in ways that you never understood, because I grew up in the church. I'm a Christian. I read the Bible scriptures. I've heard about forgiveness. I've heard about love and sanctification and redemption and all of these spiritual type of principles, but they never meant anything to me until I learned the metaphysical aspects of these things, and it made sense. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
alignment, frequency, vibrations, energetic parasites that are not leveling you up and keeping you distorted, keeping you deceived, keeping you blind, literally, so then you can't see a whole nother realm of possibility that exists out there. You'll stay in the knowing, which is probably through all the energies that have robbed you of like your truth, because you're just conforming now, right? You're conforming to like all of the things. So that's kind of how I describe too, like the alignment work is not just like reading the books and watching good things and positive and listening to podcasts, or that's one aspect of it, until you're getting into the energy of what it is that you desire. Like there's an energetic match that you have to
Yeah.
make, and so that involves shedding a lot of shit and literally detoxing energetically the things that are keeping you at another frequency.
Yeah, and honestly, I know a lot of people listening to this, there's something that we all experience when we go through this journey of shedding the old and starting to embody the new. Is there's a lot of people that don't understand what you're doing. They might be upset about it. Like that's normal. That's okay. Even if it's your spouse, right? And so what what you can hope for is, you're only responsible for yourself. You're not responsible for how other people feel about your own healing, right? And so I know that was a big message at the power retreat. Whenever we were doing our mini breakouts for integrations, we were talking a lot about that. Like, it's not our responsibility to take on how other people feel about the choice that we decided we wanted to start healing and be different and shed that old identity. And, hopefully there's plenty of people in your world that will support you or eventually rise to your level. And honestly, once you start becoming hyper aware of your own healing and your own journey, and you give yourself permission to sort of block out any naysayers, and you can love them where they're at, but they don't have to be a part of your healing journey. And so I just want to like preface that, just kind of disclaimer that, because there's a lot of people that don't allow themselves to participate in their own healing journey because they're afraid of how other people will perceive it.
Right, right.
I mean, I know you
Yeah. And
probably see
then
that quite often.
definitely. And when we are healing in that with that energy, again, because everything is energy, everything's energy. So when we're going into a healing journey, whether it's, mental or physical, or it's healing around relationship or money or business, whatever it is, like you're going into these things, when we're healing with an energy that we're being cautious around those around us, that's actually not going to help us, right? Because we're
Yeah.
kind of tiptoeing around that progress, and we're kind of being more we're maybe guarding ourselves around like how we might show up or do things in front of people. So I love that you mentioned that, because that plays a huge role in actually you may be interfering and blocking the way that you can fully integrate healing, if it's in taking consideration what other people are going to think, right? Like, oh, I don't know if my mom's going to be okay with that. I went through that where, a lot of the modalities that I was going into, I was always told they were of the devil, right? So I was, words like manifestation and words like energy and chakras and energy centers, like all that was, I was taught that that was all evil, right? Yoga's evil, that's demonic. So when I was introducing some of these modalities during my healing journey, I had to be very like quiet and hush and not bring it up around my mom or like other people in my life that were Christians, because I didn't want to be judged. I was afraid, and not realizing that inauthenticity that I was being in, because I was hiding in a way, actually stunted a lot of my healing. And it wasn't until I was like, you know what, I'm not going to hide this anymore. This is part of who I am. And it's actually working. And I'm going to be very public about it. That is when like, that was a tipping point, where that's when the word authenticity started to ring really, really loud in me and in my practice. And what I was teaching women is that if there was any level of inauthenticity in your life, it was the biggest block for you to actually receive more abundance and healing. And that breakthrough happened for me in 2019, where I realized was kind of called out, that I was very inauthentic. in my life. And that inauthenticity actually kept me in fear, and it was stunting my growth. And so when I truly stepped into like being more bold about this, and now I just recorded a podcast yesterday for Fueled by Gratitude about can woo-woo and Christianity coexist, because I get so much backlash from other fellow Christians around some of the things like having crystals and burning sage and things like that. And now I can educate and say, you know what, these are not, these are meant, God created these things for healing. So anyways, I just had to bring that up because other people will affect, your healing.
Yeah. And that's such a fantastic point too. Kind of twofold here with yes, I personally believe that religion and spirituality, like they can coexist. They do coexist in thousands and thousands of people, they coexist. So just because maybe there's one person in your immediate circle that it doesn't coexist for, that's okay. Like that's their journey and that's what they're on. And you can honor it and love them and say, you can have whatever beliefs, like those are yours. No one can take them away from you. Same as you can't take it away from me.
Right.
But I love that. And so I actually want to talk to you briefly about authenticity. This is a word that I think is losing a lot of meaning in the social media space. People are throwing it around in a way that they think it makes them look authentic, right? Oh, what? I am now fully my authentic self. And it's like, are you though? Because when I have conversations with you on the side, like you're being a totally different human. And one of the things that I've prided myself in building my business online is when people meet me in person, they're like, you're the same. Like you're the same person. You're a real human. You say fuck, like you just like say you're the same. And I'm like, yeah, because why on earth would I build an entirely different persona? Like, how much work is that to keep up with? No,
Right.
thank you. But for you, whenever you coach on authenticity, you have conversations around it. Like, what is the point of view for you and your business where you come from with that
Yeah.
word?
I think that authenticity it's so many layers of authenticity, because I think that authenticity can be just like could be maybe like how you look at someone's brand, the image, right, that they portray, and are they authentic to like what you were saying? Are they authentic to what they portray on their social media, and then what their life is going on behind the scenes, right? But I think also authenticity it's multi-level. It also means like, how are you authentically in your relationships, right? Like besides what everyone thinks about like social media, because everyone's on social media, but there's people not on social media either, right? There's
My
other
husband's not
worlds.
on social media.
So like, how is authenticity now in your relationships? This is something I had to look at, right? Am I being authentic in my relationship with my husband when we were dating, right? When he was my boyfriend? Am I being authentic in my relationship with my mother? Am I being authentic in my relationship with my sister-in-law? These are things that I had to look at. And then I also had to look at like, am I being authentic in in my business, right? At the time, network marketing. Like, where am I inauthentic in my network marketing business? Like, so I think that like authenticity is not just like, you can't just say like one, because you could be very authentic in general, right? Like in general, like this is what you get, I curse and like I just speak my mind, and people know that about you. They're like, yeah, that girl, man, she don't hold back. She just tells you like it is. Like that's one thing that a lot of my friends will always say about Victoria. Like she won't talk behind your back, because she'll tell you in front of your face. And I love that. And I thought that was like, oh yeah, I'm real. And we take that like real thing as like, that's what it means to be authentic. Mm-hmm. Well, not always, because when you really look at the layers deeper down, there are areas in your life that you probably don't realize you're being inauthentic in, right? Yeah. It literally even can be around a concept, like it could be an inauthenticity in your relationship with God, inauthenticity in relationship with money, what you say about money versus who you're being around money, what you say about God and who you are with God, right? Personally, what you say about your relationships versus what's really going on. How many times, I think a great example of this is around boundaries, right? The best way to know if you are living in authentic alignment in your life is if you're badass at boundaries. Like badass, like, nope, can't be there. and then leave it at that. Nope,
Yeah.
don't want to go there. Leave it at that. Nope, that's not for me. Or, oh, I don't want to offend her. It's my mother-in-law and she's just going to take it this way. So I'm just going to, how many women do that? So many women and men are, it's just what we do. It's just what the family does. And no, it would be disrespectful. Oh, she did that for me. I got to do it for her.
Yeah.
Like there's inauthenticity there, right?
Mhm.
I want to offend. Um, I don't want to offend. I don't want to bother her. I don't want to, let me pick my battles.
Yeah.
There's so many things. And so when I teach alignment, when I teach authenticity, I look at it as like authenticity is not just words. It's not an explanation. It's not an image. It's actually energy.
Mm.
And you can't trick energy. You
No.
can't fool energy. You just can't. So when you are saying, oh, here's an example. I teach about like non-competitiveness, right? Like I try to embody, and I say try because it's still something I have to master. Like I want to embody abundance as much as possible, right? Like I'm like abundance. There's so much for everybody, right? And I want to embody abundance. Well, an area in my life where I may be inauthentic is when maybe I'm faced with a situation where I may not want to promote something because I feel, ooh, that might mean lack for me, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Good example.
energy. So how
Hmm.
am I in alignment with authentic abundance if there's some sort of jealousy going on, comparison going on, resentment going on, a little bit of jealousy, which we do? Well, there's inauthenticity right there. I'm not
Hmm.
being authentic with my messaging about abundance and how there's plenty for others, right? I started the movement of expanders, of putting people in positions to win and wanting to expand their visions and goals because out of the law of reciprocity, it doesn't matter. I don't need those people to do for me. I'm playing in the laws of the universe, of law of reciprocity. Well, if I unconsciously am inauthentic around expanding other people's goals because I fear lack for myself or I'm jealous of their expansion, there's inauthenticity. So
Yeah.
this is how I look at authenticity. I encourage and I kind of lead and guide people like, let's look at all the levels of your life because at the end of the day, you want to be in authentic alignment in all these areas or master it because it's energy. It's just energy. So the energy doesn't speak in terms of our social media presence. It doesn't speak in terms of our relationship with our husband or partners or mothers. It speaks in energy. The universe speaks in energy. So if you want to attract in life, you want to be freedom and in the peace, you have to be an energetic match.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that is how I look at authenticity. It's not, and there's a word you're always going to hear me attach with authenticity is authentic alignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, our brands can be true to who we are in a sense, right? We say it like it is, and I curse in front of you and my mom and anybody that's doing that. But there's other levels.
Yeah.
It's multi layers, others levels of where we might be inauthentic, right? And how
Yeah.
that's showing up and how we spend our money and how we are investing and how we are talking with our friends and what we're saying no to, our boundaries that we create when we say we're going to do something and we're not doing it. Oh, that's out of integrity right there, right? I'm gonna
Mhm.
work out 5 days this week. Out of alignment, when you miss 2 days.
I mean, I love this explanation, this like breakdown of it, because it does come down to what is it you say you're going to be doing and what are the actions you're actually taking. And that's something that as of lately, I've been hyper aware of is like being super aware of the moments that I'm creating, whether it's like a moment that is myself and my business, a moment with my husband, like a moment with friends, whatever. I become really aware of what is happening and then sort of backtracking a little bit into like what was I doing intentionally that created this outcome, because for me it has really been as of lately all about awareness around something and then intentionality around like how did it actually come into fruition, right? So the integration piece, the bringing it into the physical kind of thing. And I think doing the both of them, it's 100% what you have to embody it. And I did something relatively recently where I posted something about I was like, if you don't want to feel imposter syndrome, then you need to be practicing what you preach. Like you cannot be telling people to do other things if you are not willing to do them yourself. Like that is what truly being a leader is for other people, but also for yourself. Like first you have to lead yourself.
Yes.
Before you can lead anybody else. And so, if there's coaches out there that aren't getting clients, take a good look at yourself. Are you practicing the things that are in your program that you are telling people will bring them transformational change?
Right.
Odds are maybe you're not. Like you think you've already done the work, but yet you're feeling a dry spell. So, I can guarantee that the way I see Victoria show up, all of the content that you're doing, seeing you in person at your retreat, like I know you're doing the work. You're waking up every day and you're having really intentional moments to keep yourself aligned with the authenticity that is for you. And man, it's a beautiful thing to see.
And to add to that too is there's the vulnerability aspect. I just spoke on at an event a couple of weeks ago around vulnerability, and that could be also a delicate balance. In today's world, like you were saying, authenticity seems to be like a very big trend, and within that is the whole vulnerability. Right now, we really have seen the pendulum swing from social media, where at first when social media came out, specifically Instagram, it was highlight reels. Everyone's picture perfect pictures, picture perfect life, and nobody was showing vulnerability. But then now we are in now it's all about this vulnerability, and everyone's kind of like loving the vulnerability conversations, and but it's almost getting to a toxic vulnerability. Right. And there are toxic levels of things. I did a whole episode on toxic gratitude one time because people are like, gratitude, how can that be toxic? Well, yeah, because when you're not facing the actual things that emotion is teaching you, it can become toxic. So just like vulnerability, if you're staying in the vulnerable and you're justifying that, oh, well, everybody else is suffering the way that I am, right? Like, it's not growth. It's just now keeping you in toxic. And I think what's happening a lot is people are feeding off of the attention that vulnerability is bringing, right? You make a vulnerable post, it's probably going to go viral. It's going to go like it's going to get tons of likes. And people what are they doing? They're validating you in your vulnerability, which we need to know. We need grace and we need compassion, and we need to understand that we're not perfect and that there's going to be failures and there's going to be struggles, and every emotion is good, no matter if it's depression or anger or resentment. But we have to work through that. We're called to hold each other accountable, to say, yes, you're not alone, but how are we going to see past that? And I think that the pendulum right now is like, when you said the authenticity is a trend, it's like that whole feeding of, well, this is just who I am, and this is just a struggle that I am. And it's like accepting that title of, fill in the blank, that's what it is. And I'm not alone because all these other people are suffering the way that I am. Well, I don't know about you, just because 90% of the population right now is struggling with anxiety and depression, that's not what I want. It doesn't mean, hey, that I'm not alone, and that I'm verbalizing that I'm in an anxiety and depression. Great, because if that's what's real and what's going on, I should let people know I am struggling right now. But there has to be
solution,
solution or a growth or a plan out of that, not to just say, oh, you too are struggling with anxiety and depression, and you too are on meds, and I'm on meds, and it's okay, and I'm going to be real about it, and be raw about it, and I'm going to be authentic around it instead of hiding it. But yeah, be real and raw about it, but then also document like what you're doing about it. And so I feel like the pendulum needs to okay, let's go back to not glorifying vulnerability.
Yeah. It's the glorifying like the martyrdom, the, oh my gosh. Yeah. The ultra vulnerability. Like it's great to have these things, but I'm a person who likes to be very solution focused when it comes to talking about difficult shit, trauma, whatever. Like I like to be very solution focused around things because I just don't see the point in perpetuating something that has already happened or is currently happening, in your day to day that you don't enjoy, that you don't like. Like, let's not perpetuate that. So as we wrap up today, I want to get a feel for what you have coming up, because there's always something new on the horizon, especially when I talk to entrepreneurs. They've always got something going on because life just moves at like hyper speed, it seems. So what is something that we can keep our eyes open for that you've got coming up?
Well, right now I have an annual program called the Cocoon Challenge, and we're in the middle of that and it's wrapping up. But in the summer, this spring and summer and fall times, I do have some programs, group coaching programs, that are centered around fear and overcoming, anxiety and getting into nervous system regulation. So that's the Fearless and Fulfilled program. And the best way to just find out about these upcoming programs is to just subscribe to my exclusive content on my website, and you'll have the link for that in the show notes, and you can subscribe to that. And I pretty much just update everybody on upcoming programs. And then for those of you who are in entrepreneurship and you have a sales business, whether it's in network marketing or any type of small business sales, I do offer a program called She Sells Success. It's the SSS program, and this is mastering your energy around sales, the limiting beliefs, any trauma around sales and money, and really stepping into, again, the energetic alignment to be a badass salesperson, to be just killing it in sales and not having those hurdles and stories and meanings and definitions that have held you back. So that's a program that I love, and usually almost everyone that does that is in network marketing, but it's open to anybody who's in sales. So those are some of the things coming up. And of course, we're going to have our annual power retreat happening in November 2024 here, weekend in Florida. It's the best location ever, especially around November. So we invite you to plug in to get updates on that. So right now, if you're listening to this, it is still in the early bird pricing. So make sure you snag that, because I think you're saving like $100 off the ticket for that. So.
Yeah, honestly, you guys head to the show notes, get connected with Victoria, because she always has something really, really beautiful happening. And she really does such a fabulous job of honoring her focus around like what is happening. Like, so for example, right now, the Cocoon Challenge, like she's putting all of her energy into that because she knows how powerful it can be. It's meant to be a hugely transformational program that she does once a year. And so it's like, don't waste any of the time stretching yourself too thin. Like if you're someone doing business, she's definitely someone to look at as an example of how to do all the things, do the retreats, have multiple programs, but do them in a way that honors your own energy and doesn't like stress you the fuck out.
Yes, exactly. Energetic alignment. That's the key.
That's right. So head over to the show notes. We'll have everything there for you. And Victoria, I'm just so honored to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to Branded, the podcast. Please rate and review. And for more information, visit socialjanemedia.com. I'll see you soon.